All right, well, here we are, September already, September 2nd, 2020. Again, a virtual travel club meeting. Can't assemble yet. So today we have Vince Trotter at our meeting. Vince Trotter is the Royal Caribbean District Sales Manager, and he's going to give us updates on the cruise industry. Is it safe? We're going to ask him questions about that. We have also on hand, we're going to I'll be reading to you a chapter of my book, Globetrots. You didn't tell me there'd be walking on this tour. This will be the exotic destinations chapter. I think you'll find that interesting. In the meantime, we have our A.C.T team here. Tina Spencer, the office manager.
Hi, everybody.
She's still with us.
Yes.
And we have Lalo Alvarez, our property developer, our program developer and vice president. And we're going to have fun today. We're going to start off by talking about where we stand on 2020, the rest of this year. Is it dead on arrival? The answer is yes. No, actually, international tours. The Africa, both programs, Kenya and Victoria Falls, we have moved to next year. Same rate. So if you're interested in seeing the Great Migration or Victoria Falls, which includes Zambia and Zimbabwe and Botswana, as well as Kenya and the Great Migration, give us a call. We'll fill you in on the new dates. Holy Land Cruise, Lalo, you and I were going to escort that. It is now
moved to next
September. Next September, but that's good. We're going to ask Vince about that when we talk to him about why that happened, and I'm looking forward to finding some answers because we had a lot of people, and most of them are moved to the next year's date. The Thanksgiving cruise with Costa is still going. Now that's at the end of November, and $16.95, including airfare, a night in Rome, and a 7-night cruise aboard the Costa Esmeralda. It's one of their newer ships, and you spend Thanksgiving Day in Sicily. $16.95. Don't tell me that travel is unaffordable. Domestic tours, Tina?
Well, we've got the Mother's Day. Hawaii is going for 2021. It got moved, and there people are moving over on that one.
That's a 5-day trip to Waikiki Beach, the Aston Waikiki. Airfare out of Palm Springs, $12.95.
That's a good one. Sedona and Arizona. Joan was here last month talking about those trips, and those are available and starting to get sign-ups on those.
What about day trips?
Everybody
calls and says, "Are you gonna? We want to get out of here."
I know they all do.
Tell us the reason why we don't have them.
I say I want to go because of what's going on with this virus, and we have to make sure that the buses will be able to allow people, even if if they're wearing masks. I don't know. I told people we'll get something together. There will not be a brochure out because we don't have time to put anything out. If something happens between now and the end of the year, I hope we can go like to Big Bear or just go somewhere just to get out of the,
Folks, it's all about liability. The airplanes, the cruise companies, they all have. By the way, there was a report that says the chances of getting coronavirus on a flight is 1 in 4,029. Now, some of you will say, I would be the one, I'm not going to take a chance. That's fine. But 1 in 4,029. That was reported in the New York Times. That was then broadcast on Fox. I saw it. But it's out there. So I'm not saying, again, to do it or not to go on a plane. But I get reports all the time from our clients and friends that say they travel. And it's wonderful because the flights are half empty and getting through airports is really quick. That's the truth.
Well, we hope soon. Hope soon that we can get
Eastern Europe, Holy Land Cruise. Okay, that's all been done. The other trips, Egypt has been moved to next year. The Tulip Cruise has been moved to next year. We are signing a lot of people up for individual tours also. If people wanted to go to Peru, we had someone come in the other day with wanted 8 people. We do all of that. We've been everywhere. I think, how many countries, Lalo?
125. So
125, including emirates and principalities and kingdoms. So, you know, we know what we're selling is what I'm saying. So even if it's a consultation, give us a call. Support your local businesses. The future, everybody in this industry has more or less a wait and see approach. And we're all praying for a vaccine.
We could talk about refunds. We've got refunds that are coming out there.
You go
Hamilton.
first.
Okay, Hamilton. We're working on Hamilton refunds. Be patient. I've got like 400 people that we're trying to get organized and get everybody their checks out. But everybody will get a refund, and it's just
Starting
a matter
when?
of. Well, I'm hoping. See, tomorrow's Friday. It's possible tomorrow we might start.
Certainly next week.
Yes, well, yes. And most everybody that's calling are saying they understand, and you know, it took a while to get the money back from the Pantages, so, but yeah, refunds will be coming out for that.
As far as the other trips are concerned, we are refunding once we get the money back. You know, we are middlemen. There's this misconception that there's a vault in our office with holding people's money. It's not true. It goes in one door and out the other to pay for the trips that are later canceled. So then we have to wait to get the money back. But it's money in the bank, and as soon as we get it back, it's your money. We will send it out to you. So I want you to know that refunds are in the works.
And trust me, there's no money in the office, people.
yeah.
Well, we've got once again Vince Trotter from Royal Caribbean. What is exactly Royal Caribbean International? What exactly is your title or your position?
So I am a national account manager for Royal Caribbean International. So, and I am also a strategic account manager. But the technical title is national account manager because I cover 2 national accounts. So those are really big agencies that cover about half the United States. So
Are we talking about AAA?
You would be.
Okay.
So I do all their marketing and stuff. The nice thing for you is I take that knowledge and I help you out. And this is a great idea to be talking to you today and everybody else. And
well, you're reaching
your
a
fan
lot more
base.
people than that. Our meetings are between 200 and 300, and this goes out to 5,000 or more email addresses. But maybe when they see who the guest is, they will skip. We hope not.
Right.
We hope not. What? Let's start. There's so much to talk about, but let's get to it. People say, is it safe? What is the situation with the cruise industry right now? Just not necessarily Royal Caribbean, but the whole industry.
The whole thing. Well, we've seen some. We actually have some more good news than bad news, because obviously the last couple of months there's been a lot of bad news with everyone's global suspension. But 2 cruise lines, one that we have a little bit of ownership in, called TUI Cruises out of Germany, they have been sailing since late July without incident, so that's good. Now the only thing with that, or the caveat to that, is you have to be a German citizen, and those cruises are kind of going around up to the fjords. They're not actually getting off the ship. So that's where it's kind of a protected environment, basically. So obviously they do all the stuff. They make sure everyone's healthy and stuff. Then they go on the cruise, go check out some
sounds like a floating
fjords.
prison if you can't get off the ship.
Right.
You know.
So the next step to that, you may have heard in the news that MSC Cruises has been doing some stuff, and they've had 2 or 3 cruises now. And so they are actually stopping in different ports in Italy. Now that, once again, that's just for Italians so far. And they've been able to cruise, like I said, 3 times, I believe now, without incident. So all the cruise lines are watching to see how those are going. And so far it's been going good.
Is the problem Americans?
No, I wouldn't say it's Americans. I would say that, it flared up, obviously in China, then went to Europe, and then kind of broke loose here. And then, so we're kind of still dealing with it, but it's starting to go down a little bit here. But the big thing for us right now, I guess the next step, and this is actually for a lot of the cruise lines. So Royal Caribbean partnered with Norwegian Cruise Line, and so we put this blue ribbon panel together of experts. One of them is the former governor of Utah, and also he used to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services during one of the Bush presidents. So, and then his co-chairman is Dr. Goubelet, which you may have seen him on NBC and C-SPAN, and I saw him just the other day being interviewed talking about what the vaccine updates are and stuff. So they're both co-chairman, and then we have a ton of other really smart people that are doctors from across the world that have either worked for the CDC or have dealt with the CDC. And so this blue panel of experts that we've had, they're going to come out with these recommendations. They've been working on it for about 2.5 to 3 months. So they're supposed to give us their findings of what they advise us to do to have a healthy return to service. And that's supposed to be next week, actually. So the end of August. And so probably we'll get that information. It'll take us a week or two probably to figure out all the different things and recommendations and ask questions, and then take that information and see how are we going to implement this from, because when you're going on a cruise, you're flying in or you're driving to the port, and then you're going to go to the terminal. Well, what's it going to look like when you arrive at the terminal? Are we doing one of those fast, COVID-19 tests, which they're developing right now, and then take your temperature? What are all the facets of actually from curbside to actually being able to board the ship? What is that going to look like? And then once you're on the ship, what does that look like when you're going to the main dining room or a specialty restaurant? Or what are the shows going to look like? Is it going to be 50%, 60%, 70%, social distancing, all those things?
A quagmire. Are any of your vessels sailing at the moment?
Currently, we don't have any ships sailing under the Royal Caribbean fleet.
Yeah.
We have suspended our service until November 1st.
Okay.
To give us time, and that's right in line with CLIA, which is kind of like a governing body that oversees all the cruise lines.
Cruise Line International Association.
Correct.
Yeah. Everybody would be afraid of getting on a ship and then having it quarantined and having to fly back from Japan like Princess and this nightmare scenario. So there are no steps right now that are being made with Royal Caribbean. Are you waiting for the findings?
Oh, no. So we've, even before we put the Blue Ribbon panel together, we had a bunch of experts that are underneath the Royal Caribbean group. So that's Azamara, Celebrity, and Royal Caribbean, and Silver Sea now. So we were all kind of gathering and collecting ideas. So we've been working on this pretty much ever since it started. And some things we even started even before then, like the mustard drill. That was something we actually started working on last year.
What's a mustard drill?
So that's where before you go on a cruise, or before the ship actually leaves the port, you have to go through this safety drill. So a lot of times, big groups would have to all get together and be in line, sometimes outside, and outside's not super...
A
lifeboat drill.
Oh,
correct.
They call that a mustard drill.
Yeah, so we do that. So now we have it set up where you can actually go to your stateroom, watch the videos there.
Oh, thank
in
gosh.
the comfort
I
of
like
your
that.
in the comfort of your, or you can actually watch the videos from your smartphone, and then all you have to do is go to the mustard drill station that's on your little CPass card, and they'll scan it, and then you're done.
Well, what if you don't want to see any video?
Well, then eventually they're going to make you watch that video, or they're going to probably kick you off.
How do they know if you've watched it in your room or not?
There's a little thing that basically that you click on. So all the TVs in the staterooms are all interactive.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, that still is nice that you don't have to go out there and stand with a life jacket on.
Correct. So there's some things like that we've already been working on even before this pandemic. But there's a lot of stuff we've already been working on that we already kind of have in place. But instead of like just kind of piecemealing, like, hey, here's a little bit, here's a little bit, here's a little bit, we wanted to gather all of the information that we have internally and from these recommendations from these experts, put it all together, and then release it out to you, so then you can explain it to all these lovely people out there.
So November 1st, up until November 1st, nothing is going. So let's say that next year, January, that's, Royal Caribbean, I think that's maybe one of the specialty destinations. What if a foreign port says you can't dock here?
It's very possible. We have a team that's all they do. They work with all the different governments in the world. Hopefully, we would have all those things already in place, But I guess if you wanted to have like a scenario, say we were going into a port and maybe the city, maybe they're having some issues and they're saying, hey, it's not safe for you to come here because we don't want to expose your guests on your ship to it. The other could be the flip around, where that's kind of what you've saw in the news for the last couple of months. You have a ship with people that are infected, and they would deny.
Well, okay. Royal Caribbean canceled our Holy Land cruise. We had about 40 people.
Correct.
More than that, actually, before the virus hit. And that was scheduled to take off October 25th, but because everything is now moved until November, we've scheduled that next September. But let's say, for example, when you have something called the Holy Land cruise, if Israel closed its ports to cruise ships, does Royal Caribbean have the right to say, well, we'll go to Malta instead? That's not really a Holy Land
That
cruise.
is a very good point, but that actually in the terms and conditions that basically that you sign when you decide to go and sail with Royal Caribbean or any cruise line for that matter, that's a part of it. If we can be denied going entry into it.
I know. It's happened in places like Grand Cayman and Santorini where you have to tender in because of this rolling seas. They can't do that.
Correct.
But there would not be, in other words, if somebody wanted to always step onto Israeli soil and they wanted to go where Jesus walked, or they want to see the Western Wall, the most sacred Jewish site, if Israel's the week that this thing is going, or during your cruise, they say we're closing the ports, there's nothing people can do. You know what we're going to hear. We want our money back.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a valid point. Israel is kind of a tricky one. There's one individual I know where I think it took her 4 or 5 times trying to go to Israel, and it had nothing to do with obviously with COVID. There was no outbreak or anything like that. It had to dealt with political unrest in that country. So we cannot, as a cruise line, we can never take our guests to a port that we feel that is unsafe. Vice versa, the agreement we have with the different countries of the world is we cannot, if they feel that we're unsafe to bring guests in there, then they have the right to deny that as well. However, that's where we have some very smart people. That's all they deal is with government regulations.
We had a very popular cruise 2 years ago. Lalo and I escorted a group on Royal Caribbean to New Zealand, both islands of New Zealand. Started and ended in Sydney. We are repeating that this March. We didn't even have to advertise. We had 70 people sign up, and they're all going. New Zealand, I don't know, do they still have a quarantine? You don't know because of stuff, maybe you do know, but it changes all the time.
I think right now, what's the latest thing
oh my
I read?
gosh,
I think right now that one, I think it is open right now.
September, October, November, December,
Off the
January,
top of my
February,
head.
March. 7 months from now. Well, who knows?
Yeah, we should be fine, hopefully. But I mean, that's the tricky part. I mean, everything, the
Can
information.
you guarantee it?
I cannot. But,
Well, Princess could.
but
Carnival could.
let's get them in here. Let's put them to the
Oceana,
fire.
where are you? What?
But you always have to take. You just have to kind of hope for the best. But I think with the strides they've made, and
wait and see approach. We talked about it.
yeah, that's just kind of how we are. I mean, we gather all this information from different countries, and then
So if you do
and the
cancel-
vaccines hopefully coming out here.
If Royal Caribbean does have to cancel, and people want to go, but the cruise line cancels, do they get their money back?
Yes. So if Royal Caribbean, if we cancel the cruise, you get all of your money back. You get the cruise fare, the taxes, port fees, anything, all that stuff. If you bought the beverage package, if you had shore excursions, you get all that. So you kind of have 2 options there. You can choose to get the refund. You get everything back, 100%. If you opt for it's called a future cruise credit, we will actually give you 125%. So then you can take that 125% future cruise credit and put it on a future cruise. So like the example that we had with your Israel cruise, we canceled it. Your clients had an option to be able to, or your guests had an option to opt for a refund or 125%.
So
future
if the
credit.
cruise was $1,000, they'd get $1,250.
Correct.
Yeah, and for about a year.
Yeah, those you would get the future cruise credit is good through December 31st of 2021.
Yeah.
You just have to cruise by April 30th of 2022.
Oh,
So
well,
it's a
that's
pretty far out thing.
Yeah.
And that all, once again, things are always constantly changing. Once we bring our deployment out through all the way through April of 2023, we might extend that. They haven't told us if that's going to happen or not, but as more and more crews, as you keep kicking the can down the road, if you want to use that analogy, eventually, it's kind of all these people are using their future cruise credits. You're at some point you're going to have to maybe possibly extend them. But we've been trying to be as generous to your travelers as we possibly can, because these are unprecedented times. So it's a little tricky.
You think?
So I think the key, I hate to use this word, and I know it's a cliche, but you got to be really flexible right now. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, then it's going to be really challenging. So.
You call it what? Cruise with confidence?
Cruise with confidence. So this is another way where you can book a cruise and say you don't feel confident about going on the cruise. You can cancel up to 48 hours before the cruise. And we will say the cruise was $1,000, then we will issue a future cruise credit for $1,000 that you can use at a later date.
But that's different. In other words, you're saying that if I feel uncomfortable, if that cruise is going to operate, I can still have the option of canceling?
Yes, up to 48 hours before.
And you won't get a refund, but you'll get a credit.
Correct.
When
Correct.
does this take place?
This is taking place right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now that's a pretty good deal. That's a very good deal. What, out of curiosity, because I like money, what are some of the most popular cruise itineraries? I mean, if I sat here and because Lalo and I, we go over the schedule of what we're going to be offering. If I don't want to be daring, if I want to know what are people reserving, what would you say?
Caribbean's been very popular, but the last 2 weeks, just looking at some numbers yesterday, Europe has actually been very popular, as well as Alaska. Alaska's been, because you got to think, Alaska has a very short season to it, so it runs from May to maybe the first week of September.
Yeah.
So nobody went to Alaska this year, because...
Really?
Yeah. Well, except for the people that live there.
Oh, well, because there's no cruising.
Because no cruise ships could go up there. I think maybe there was
Except
one.
for the people that live there.
So there's kind of a pent-up demand, if you want to use that, that a lot of people want to go to Alaska because they missed out on that opportunity. So we do have 4 ships actually in Alaska next year. So there's quite a few options for that. But Alaska and Europe are very popular. Europe is kind of going through the roof. This one statistic that I saw.
For Europe?
For Europe, yeah.
I wonder why.
I think because a lot of people planned to go there.
Yeah, we did.
And it just didn't happen, unfortunately. So you're going to have, that's the thing. If you want to go on actually any type of trip, definitely you should call A.C.T. as soon as possible. Because, these things... Because it's kind of like
people. I've always liked this man.
People that were already booked for 2021. Then you take all these future cruise credits that people have. So now that compounds it. Then you got people that haven't even decided on a cruise or whatever type of vacation they want to go on. So then that's another layer there. So 2021, knock on wood, if everything goes well and we
get a vaccine,
and our protocols are all online, and I'm sure they will be. I feel very confident with the experts we have. 2021 should be a really good year for travel. I think it's going to become an issue for space at some point, because
I was going to ask you, are you going to come up with? Is the cruise line going to come up with any kind of promotions? I hear from a lot of operators that you just wait. When this thing gets back, there are going to be all kinds of deals out there.
Yeah. So right now, ours is, I think the next one, it's going to be buy one, get the 60% off or 50% off for the month of September. And then there's lots of other little deals on top of that, where if you book within this 3 days, usually it's like Friday through Monday, you can get an extra $200 off. So there's lots of little offers like that. And then we're going to, depending on how things go, it's going to just probably keep getting real richer and richer and richer.
You know,
So-
it seems to be one of the trends, and we can conclude with this, and maybe you can comment. People they want prepaid gratuities. They love the open beverage package. This was the last 3 years, I would say, has really grown. And
Sure.
Does Royal Caribbean have things like that?
So the
Incentives, I guess, is the
the
word.
beverage. So what we've
Internet.
done, yeah. So sometimes what we do is we'll have, we call it a double. This is kind of a good one where you can get up to $200 of onboard credit and $200 off. So it's really kind of like a $400 swing. And so we like offering onboard credit. And if you don't know what onboard credit is, that's something you can use. It's basically like Monopoly money that you can use on the ship, or you can use it in advance before. So if you wanted to use a beverage or purchase a beverage package, you could take that $200 of onboard credit and it could go towards your beverage package. We don't offer the beverage packages included as far as an offer, because we want people to be able to choose what they want, because not everybody drinks. So you can use it for your shore excursions, or you can use it for a beverage package, or specialty dining, or if I've taken a pasta making
gratuities?
classes, you could use it to go towards your gratuities.
$200 for the gratuity,
Yeah.
which is about $10 a person a day.
So it just kind of depends on, you have more choice with us. So the money is still sitting there.
Okay.
You just have more options where it's not like, okay, here,
Yeah, because a lot of these deals are like smoke and mirrors. I mean,
to some extent,
yeah. But I'm glad that Royal Caribbean is on it as well. Well, normally at this time we would say, any of you have any questions?
Right.
But
Right.
obviously we can't do that now. But thank you so much for coming in.
You're welcome.
And what's your website?
Ours is royalcaribbean.com.
RoyalCaribbean.com.
Yep.
Do you offer trips to South America?
We do not, but our Silver Sea does, which is our luxury line. Azamara does, and so does Celebrity.
So this is all under the umbrella of,
The Royal Caribbean Group.
so like Princess would have Costa, and they have Cunard
And Carnival, right.
And Carnival,
Correct.
right. Or that's under the umbrella of Carnival.
Correct.
But this would be under the umbrella of Royal Caribbean.
Correct.
And you have Silver Seas, you have Azamara.
Correct. Celebrity Cruises.
Celebrity Cruises is a part of yours too?
Yep.
Wow.
Sure are. Yep.
Okay.
And then Royal Caribbean.
So if somebody cruises a lot on Celebrity, can they transfer it over to
It's a very good question. So what we've done, it's reciprocal. So
Yes.
say if you've been on a bunch of cruises on Celebrity, and say then you want to go on Royal Caribbean, you want to take the whole family or do something like that, then it's reciprocal over. So we will find the equivalent of on Royal Caribbean. So say you're
Captain's Circle or something?
Right. So say you're used to going to the private, lounge area because you've been on X amount of cruises. Well, then you would have that access on Royal Caribbean.
Oh, that's nice to know.
We do the same thing with Azamara. Silver Sea, since we just purchased them recently, we're still trying to figure out what those tiers are exactly.
Yeah.
And Silver Sea is more, it's ultra luxury,
Oh, yeah.
really small ships.
It's like Crystal
things like
Cruises
that.
or something.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You got it. Yeah.
All right, so now we also are going to do a summary of the 2021 vacation posted on our website. We do have things already going on 2021. One of them we mentioned is the Tulip Cruise, which starts and ends in Amsterdam. It goes up to Belgium and the Benelux countries. We postponed that to next year. That's $24.95, including air, a couple nights in Amsterdam at the beginning. It was very successful. It happened naturally. This is during the Floridad, the big tulip festival in Amsterdam. That is being offered next year. Tina's New York City theater in New York. 5 top Broadway shows, orchestra or front mezzanine seats, staying at the Crowne Plaza, Times Square. That will be in April, just before the Tony Awards. Half the people that had signed up this year have transferred over to next year, and we invite you to join them. That's operating. If you recall, we have an Iceland trip, an Iceland to British Isles. And this is on a Norwegian cruise line. You start with 3 days in Iceland, 4 days actually, and it goes to all around the Iceland to visit. And then you take off and you go to Ireland, you go to England, including Liverpool, the Beatles, places that a lot of people haven't visited. You go to Northern Ireland also, Belfast, as well as the Republic of Ireland, Dublin and Cork and all that. And you wind up in Southampton. It's a wonderful trip. That was $16.95, including the night in Iceland. And we just got the air. We're working on the air right now. This will be in and out of Palm Springs. It's a wonderful trip. We have the Hawaii, the Christmas Hawaii. Actually, that's at the end of December, and it goes into December. Puerto Vallarta, that's coming up. The Puerto Vallarta trip is at the end of this month, at the end of September. So we do have trips operating. Egypt we mentioned, the Great Migration, also Best of Greece, the one that we had this year, that was moved over. Do check our website, ACT-tours.com, for a summary of all of those trips that are posted.
Well, Steve, you wrote a book, and I want to know, what is Globetrots? Because I believe that's
the name of the book is Globetrots. You didn't tell me there'd be walking on this tour. How many times have you heard that?
In the office.
And you know, our standard answer to that, you could go to Disneyland for the day and you could either sit at a bench in the main street as soon as you walk through the gate and have a good brisk sit for the day, or you can walk to the other parts. So when people say that, you didn't tell me there'd be walking on this tour. It's just whining. Do you know what the word trots is? If I say I have the trots? Yes, I think most people know what that is. So this book, Globetrots, is specifically, well, it includes people, after 45 years of taking people around the world, I thought we have enough stories that we can address this malady and how to cure it. But it's also, there's a subtitle, is a seasoned tour operator tells American whiners, or American travelers who whine, where to go. And literally, we talk about different destinations. We have been to all 7 continents. I give you my perspective on them, if you should go or not, and if so, what to expect. It's not a travel book like Rick Steves or something like this. This is all seen through the eyes of a tour operator, and I think it's the first time.
Right.
You've got Dave Barry writing humorous things, and well, actually, you've read part of it, haven't you?
I got to, you sent me the first chapter, and it's awesome. I like it a lot.
Did it put you to sleep?
No, it didn't. I liked it. It's a good introduction to the book. It tells you, you kind of gives an idea of what you're going to go with. So the motivation of writing the book, obviously, is all your travels, and you've been...
Well, we have a lot of funny photos with it. Lalo and I have taken people around the world. But it talks about things like the chapter that we're going to read, Exotic Destinations. You have the introduction, and you have 7 chapters corresponding to all the continents. We've been privileged to walk on Antarctica and of course, many trips to Asia and stuff. But it's written in a humorous vein. So we're hoping that it'll make you smile and bring back memories. I'd be really interested later to hear input from you all and get stories from people, because we all have stories. There's not a bigger bore than a travel person that's going to tell you about his last trip, but these are incidences and also how to prepare for trips.
Right. So the percentage of travelers, how much do you think are complainers?
You know, people with Globetrots are whiners. Travel Agent magazine has it pinned down to 3%. 3% of people, no matter what you do, you can have 5-star hotels, beautiful weather, every condition, every representation met, 3% are going to complain. So all we're talking about are about 3%. Most people roll with it, and I make a point in the book of saying that Americans, in fact, are almost too courteous. You'll be in Italy and people will cut in front of you and you'll just stand back, oh, okay. But you know, and we talk about the so-called ugly American. There's ugly Europeans too, ugly Asians too. I think Americans are sometimes too polite.
Right. Well, you talk about in that chapter that I read about people that all they want to do is shop. They care about shopping. They care about their hotel. I mean, you're in an exotic place, but yet when are we going to go shopping? When are we going to eat? You know, those are the kind of things that you addressed in that, and it was.
Yeah.
So
when are we going to get to the teriyaki soldiers?
Yeah.
You know, to our learned Chinese guide.
Yeah,
instead of the
or be
terracotta.
mean. The people that will say, what the German made a comment about the crowd in the bus.
Oh yeah, turn off that Nazi music. But anyhow, all of these happens, but they reveal a lot. You know, the psychology of travel. We get into that a lot also. The book covers all of these aspects.
Do you think the foreign travelers are different when they come to America? Do you think they're?
I do. I think foreign travelers, first of all, when the guide is speaking, they don't talk. They listen. Many of them take notes. And I'm not knocking Americans. You know, I make a point of saying so many of us are worried that when we're overseas, I don't want to be an ugly American. So they won't wear a Hawaiian shirt, or they will do this. Be what you are, you know?
Right.
I mean, we live in Yucca Valley, the high desert, and it's filled a lot of times with Germans, and they come wearing lederhosen, believe it or not, because they want to climb the rocks and stuff. They don't care, and this is it. This is not a second thing. So my dad used to, God bless him, he's gone with now, but he would go to Europe with us on our tours, and he'd wear his cowboy hat. He was from Big Pine, which is where they did this. People would go up to him and to shake his hand. Can I take a picture with you? And who says that you can't dress like you would here? I mean, it's a vacation.
So how are the chapters in this book divided?
Well, the 7 continents. You've got the introduction, which goes on a bit to tell you, define our terms, Globetrots, and what that means. It's filled with a lot of quotations. And so we have 7 chapters after that. We also have one about Cuba, which is an interesting, we've been to Cuba a number of times, but this is in a category of its own. We have the exotic destination chapters. We also have one at the very end that is called messages that could be on a postcard, and these are final, sort of a summary. So it's a fast read. It's an interesting read, whether you've been to these places or not. We think that it's nice.
Well, knowing that
Say we meaning I.
Yeah, knowing that you wrote it, there's got to be some funny stuff in it, because I know how you are.
You've got to laugh along the way.
You do.
That's
I mean,
one of the
I've
secrets.
been on many trips where, yeah, if you don't, you'll cry.
Yes.
So when is this book going to be out? When is it going to be
The book,
available?
Globetrots, is going to go to the press. We hope to have it out by the end of the year.
Okay, you give copies like when they do.
Will I give copies?
Yeah,
did you
like
say?
like on Ellen's show, like everybody in the audience is going to get a book.
You mean like everybody at the Travel Club of the Desert?
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk about that. I don't have your money.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're going to start with a chapter called Exotic Destinations. I hope you like it. Soon after it was founded, Adult Customized Tours had sold London, Paris, and Rome so many times that it started offering trips to more exotic destinations, places like Antarctica, Easter Island, Myanmar, Nepal, Madagascar, Zanzibar, Fiji, the Cook Islands, San Marino, Oman, Ecuador, Guatemala, Belize, and other non-tourist spots most people probably couldn't find on a map. Mongolia, Tibet, the tiny Balkan nations, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, the Canary Islands, you get the gist. Whenever A.C.T posted these and other exotic journeys, people afflicted with Globetrots inevitably reacted with hesitation before asking the usual question. Yeah, but when are you going to go to Paris? Or London, or Rome? After a sigh and a rub of the temples, we would answer, what month do you want to go? From which airport? And how many stars do you want in front of the hotel's name? Trips to unusual countries, in my mind, are the most interesting because they produce a wide range of emotions. And when the countries are really distant and mysterious, make one fall in love with America all over again upon return. Just the thought of going off the beaten path fills one with a sense of adventure. Travelers know in advance they will come back with great stories to share with family and friends, and that they will be perceived as real Marco Polos rather than typical tourists with name badges strung around their necks. Memories of exotica that come back to me. These are memories of exotica that come back to us. Cruising through the Suez Canal, where machine gunners on either side, stationed 50 yards apart, guarded the vital waterway from terrorists. To those of us observing the ominous scene, the ice carving demonstration being staged on the upper fun deck during the passage seemed woefully irreverent. Sleeping in gurs, otherwise known as yurts, round tents in the Gobi Desert and in outer Mongolia, with no private facilities, only one or two candles to lighten the way to the camp's latrines some 50 yards away. Talk about exotic. Ousting frisky monkeys from rooms at lodges in Zimbabwe and deep inside the Amazon jungle. Seeing half-naked Vanuatu natives shaking their spears at us inside their Polynesian village. Ditto Zulu women dancing topless with tribesmen wearing nothing but straw skirts at Zulu Kraal in South Africa. Exotic. Watching the president of a women's club in one of our distinguished desert cities performing a Maria Van Trapp-like twirl on an icy slope in Antarctica, shouting, "I have arrived, Antarctica!" before accidentally slipping on penguin guano, falling on her ass and sliding into the icy Weddell Sea. Witnessing a client lose his footing in the Zambezi River in Zambia and having to rescue him from tumbling over Victoria Falls. These are memories of actual incidents that have happened on our exotic tours. Trying to figure out how the natives move those heavy moai, those enormous Polynesian faces carved on monoliths on Easter Island. Whizzing through the Himalaya mountains on a flight scene plane, getting up close to Mount Everest, climbing to the tops of Angkor Wat, Cambodia, and the Potala Palace in Tibet. I remember shaking hands of U.S. servicemen and giving thanks to them while they enjoyed R&R in the Sultanate of Oman. Daring to talk politics in Tibet, Cuba, and Russia, explaining again why we can't help someone in an oppressed country escape his land. So to add some of the exotic destinations of the world, you've got Kazakhstan, you have Ethiopia, Sri Lanka, the Solomon Islands, Swaziland, Dubai, Uruguay, India, Laos, Romania, Mauritius, Vanuatu, Serbia, Oxnard. You get the picture. Anywhere but London, Paris, and Rome. With so many normal, and lack of a better word, vacation destinations out there and so few opportunities to experience them all, why would anyone want to travel to Papua New Guinea, Jordan, Morocco, and Iceland? Having been fortunate enough to visit each of these remote places, some more exotic than others, but none a particular magnet to American tourists, perhaps I can shed a light on the answer with the help of quotations from two great writers, Kurt Vonnegut and Albert Camus. Quote, "Bizarre travel plans are dancing lessons from God," wrote Vonnegut, to which Camus would seem to concur when he noted that What gives value to travel is fear. The meaning behind these pearls of wisdom can be illustrated in the following episode Lalo and I experienced in 2008 during a cruise from Rome through the Suez Canal to Dubai on the Red Sea, featuring ports of call on the Arabian Peninsula. At the approximate time Al-Qaeda moved its base from Afghanistan to Yemen, Costa Cruises nevertheless opted to include in its itinerary the port of Aden, the infamous Yemeni town where the USS Cole had been attacked in 2000, killing 17 American sailors and injuring 39 others. Lalo and I, two ignorant participants of that Costa voyage, having forgotten the Cole incident and being oblivious to the U.S. State Department's warning about traveling to Yemen, decided to book the ship overnight shore excursion showcasing the country's capital, a tour the cruise line sweetly named Scenic Sana'a. We set off in a caravan of vans from Aden. Only later did we learn that just 2 weeks prior to our ship's arrival, a similar convoy of vans carrying Belgian nuns was stopped in its track by terrorists who promptly strafed the vehicles with machine guns. There were no survivors. The trip to Sana'a followed a 2-lane highway through dusty towns that highlighted the typical architecture of Yemen. Brick buildings crisscrossed with white tiles. We passed lots of men garbed in dirty kaftans doing nothing but sitting and yawning, appearing stoned. And indeed, stoned they were, as the government, we were told, condoned and even encouraged the use of khat, K-H-A-T, a flowering plant that when dried and chewed was used as a stimulant. Both khat and its cousin, marijuana, can also induce sedation, however. And by all appearances, that was the effect it had on the males who gathered on street curbs and lay sprawled under trees. As our vans passed, thousands of small blue plastic bags swept to the sides of the road, testimony to how khat was packaged and sold. Occasionally, khat makes you crazy, chuckled our driver. Sometimes men kill their friends and wives. I made a note to avoid making eye contact with anyone chewing even gum in the country. Apparently, the driver of the van in front of us was also indulging in the local treat because he drove off a curve and narrowly missed going over a steep cliff. His van abruptly stopped in a whirl of dust and his passengers jumped out and refused to continue their journey until the driver was replaced. What became of those people is a mystery as our vehicle slowly maneuvered around the commotion and continued its trek to the capital. Why would the government encourage people to use khat? I asked our driver. Life is hard in Yemen, he responded. The government is corrupt. People chew khat to forget their cares. And then, for emphasis, with khat, people don't care about anything, including our leadership. So the president condones khat and says that it's okay, that it is as traditional in Yemen as is tea. Well, by the time the caravan of 7 vans reached the capital, it was late, and Lalo and I had seen enough to know we would never return to Yemen. Sometimes in travel, there are lands where you just instinctively know that there is nothing that would ever lure you back. When our guide announced we would all have to check out of the posh hotel at 6:30 the following morning, we decided to abandon the tour and sleep in late, and hire a private car and driver to take us to the cruise ship at a more civil hour. After all, this was supposed to be a vacation. We realized that halfway through the brunch the next morning that neither of us remembered what time the ship was scheduled to depart Aden. Panic set in. Was the reason the caravan departed so early due to the fact that the ship left at noon? It was 10:30 in the morning, and the drive back to port would take at least 2 hours. All of our written material was left on board the ship. We did not even carry a phone number of the ground operator. The only stub I could find was a torn ticket with the words Scenic Sana'a, no return, printed above the Costa Cruise logo. It might as well have read Good luck. Would we become permanent residents of this God-forsaken country? We alerted the hotel concierge of our dilemma, paid our bill, and rushed to our room where, bumping into each other and delirious, we frantically threw things into our overnight bags. Fortunately, our driver had arrived early. Barking at each other, we jumped into the sedan and sped away, leaving only blurry-eyed Yemenis chewing khat in our wake, scratching their heads. Told of our situation, the driver we hired gunned his car and said, "I guess that means you won't have time to see the old city." Sensing our recoil, he pushed the pedal. "People here don't have much," he said as a goat leaped out of a trunk of a car in front of us. "They think all Americans are rich. Are you rich?" We assured him we were not and settled into our seats as he continued to enlighten us of all things Yemeni. "This is a dangerous place," he said, waving his hand above the dashboard. "Osama bin Laden lived here. His father was born in Yemen. You can buy any kind of weapon on every street corner. Guns, hand grenades, rockets, anything you want. That's important because people here hold grudges." "Grudges?" I gulped, looking at my watch. The driver explained how in the 19th century a family's cow was stolen by the head of another clan and the bloody revenge that ensued. "To this day, those two families still kill members of each other's," he shrugged, "all because of a stolen cow 200 years ago." An hour into our drive, we detoured onto a road that took us directly into the heart of a busy market. In a matter of seconds, our sedan was surrounded by throngs of curious onlookers. With cupped hands, they peered into our luxury car. And at this juncture in our story, it should be mentioned that men in Yemen all wear curved daggers fastened onto their belts, "specially designed to cut the throats of infidels," reported our driver, who casually chewed a toothpick with one hand on the wheel. Lalo, being of Mexican ancestry, could pass as an Arab, but there was little doubt what country I, wearing a shirt purchased in Waikiki that portrayed hula dancers performing against a background of swirling azaleas, came from. I slunk down in my seat and could barely rasp, "Step on it, please." Eventually, we made it back to Aden in time to board the ship. After we drowned a couple of drinks in the mariner's lounge to calm our nerves, the captain and later the CEO of Costa Cruises got an earful from us challenging the wisdom of including Yemen as a port of call on a pleasure cruise. We later found out that our ship was the last to drop anchor there. Kurt Vonnegut's belief that bizarre travel plans are dancing lessons from God took on new meaning. And next time we will sit one out before stepping onto that dance floor again. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and Tina and Lalo, is the conclusion of our Exotic Destinations chapter.
Steve, what is it that you're holding there? What is that?
This is a model of a yurt, or gur, Mongolia, the Gobi Desert, where we had to tent and spend the night. I wish it brought back fond memories, but it doesn't.
And I have a souvenir from Yemen.
A bag of khat.
It'll make you smile.
Hi, taxi.